As you develop workflows, the question always comes up, what's the best way to debug my workflows? How do I know if everything is working? Where do I write log information? So in the next few minutes, I want to talk about the different logging mechanism that we have within HM Orchestrator, and you have to choose which one best satisfy your requirements. Let's start off with our adapter configuration. If we go into Grid Manager and select the Management tab, you can select on the peer, modify the peer that we have, and there we have the capabilities to configure our logging level. This is on a peer-by-peer basis, and this information will be written into the grid.log in your Tomcat/log folders. As you can see here, we have for each of the different underlying infrastructure components of HM Orchestrator different log levels. The adapter framework and the adapters are sometimes required to debug further, and we can move this into the debug mode or error mode or whatsoever. So you can change this for the different components within HM Orchestrator. In addition to the peer level, we also have logging on grid level. As we go and modify our grid, you see that our logging level, generally speaking, right now is in debug mode. Keep this in mind because this level shows up also in Developer Studio. So right now we are debugging, or our logging level is in debug mode. Let's cancel this. And the next portion is going to be on the adapter level. So grid as well as peer, generally speaking, right into grid.log. In addition, with the 7.8 platform was added to the adapter framework itself. As you see here, the adapters that I have configured, I'm going to modify the Azure HTTP adapter. And as you can see here, our form-based configuration of the HTTP adapter and a log file name. This log file serves as a collection point for all the activities of that particular adapter outside of grid.log and outside of process.log. And I can apply here the same rules as with the grid and process log, where we define the log file size, the backup index, and so forth, and the log level that we want to apply. At this point, I highly recommend to come up with the naming schema in order for you to manage these kind of logs much more efficiently. I start with the keyword adapter, then the protocol or the application, a combination of both. In case of just HTTP, I would call it adapter-http.log, but this one is a very particular one because I want to capture everything that has to do with Microsoft Azure, so I call this one adapter-azure.htp.log. Let's cancel this out. And if we look then in our log directory, you can see for the individual adapters I have configured log files. Of additional interest would be the BladeLogic integration with adapter-BSA or the integration with Remedy, adapter-ARS or monitor ARS. Okay. As you can see, we have multiple adapters here, and each of these adapters follows a naming schema. I highly recommend that you have one in your environment as well. And if you would like to know how to manage then adapters with different adapter names, we have a video that talks about using a utility and being able to manage the adapter configuration. Let's go to the next area, which is Development Studio. Also there we have logging capability. If you double click into a workflow, this feature was also added in the 7.8 platform, you can enable logging. And as you can see here, the process ID will be copied over into the log file. At this point of view, or for this point of view, I want to change this and say process-azure-log. This is going to be, .log. This is going to be the overall log file for this integration. Everything that we do, including the subsequent execution of workflows, will be saved in that log file. Another point would be you can double click on that workflow and have the logging tab. This applies to activities, workflows that you drag and drop into, adapter calls, and so forth. It's a generic activity that we also have in the 7.6 and prior versions of HM Orchestrator. You enable the logging, and as we mentioned earlier, our grid can be in debug, info 1, or error level. So here you pick which one you want to have. For development purposes, I select the debug mode. For production, I would select either info or 1, or if I'm really not interested in all that talk that is being generated under the cover, just pick the error one. Production-wise, yeah, info 1 on error, development area in debug. And now another suggestion would be to prefix your logging with certain characters so it's easier for you to find in process.log. So this is the way I usually go about this. Azure, and then I mentioned start of my logging. Copy this one, and at the end of my logging, I just paste that information and say end. When I traverse the process log, I will find my information so much easier. You can right mouse click and add any text or XML structure in here. This will be written into the process log. Just keep in mind, if you execute this on Developer Studio, the process log is not the one on your peer, it is the one on your local machine.